All right, and we should be live. So, Justin, welcome back to the channel. It's good to have you back. You are in the middle of the ocean somewhere, right?
Yeah, I'm in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. I'm on my way from where we were in Puerto Plata, Dominican Republic, yesterday, and we're on our way to Charleston, South Carolina. We'll get there sometime tomorrow evening.
Very exciting. Just enjoying a little bit of time away.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, nowadays I pretty much wherever I go, I take my laptop with me. So like I'm always working on something, whether it's agent team related or property related. So I feel like I'm in a mobile office on the sea right now. So I got a
Yeah,
couple YouTube lives this morning. I got a team meeting tonight. In between, I'm gonna go hit the spa and hit the buffet up.
doing all that, and you're going to self-manage your portfolio.
100%. Yes.
All right, so let's jump into that. What was the main driver for you to want to take back management? Because we've talked about in the past, managers' money is not they're spending your money, so they don't care. But what are some other reasons that you're going to bring it back in house?
The biggest thing that got me was so for me and you, I think we were both doing the same thing. We're managing the manager, right? And
Mhm.
then over time, you start realizing, gosh, I'm spending a lot of time already managing the manager, right? And
Yeah.
then, with you, you have more units than I do. So, but I'm still noticing like if I'm not on top of them, the costs start getting more stuff gets done that you're not knowing about, and your costs start getting too high. So, the amount of time I'm spending on it, and then the performance of the properties. So then I'm like, well, why don't I put that incremental effort, lower the property management fee, and then be more proactive on whether it's the expense management or preventative maintenance for the property. So, uh, full circle, it's just literally about profitability. Because at the end of the day, like you can have 1,000 properties, but if you're not making money, you're not going to be able to, you know, live that W-2 to freedom life.
Well, and that's how I felt because my manager, a lot of the time, like I would get the big equity gains and I would get cash out refinance events, which they wouldn't get. But on a monthly basis, I'd be paying them more than I was paying myself
Oh
consistently,
yeah,
which is
totally.
obnoxious.
Hmm.
And yeah, they're doing some work, but I don't know about you. I was coordinating majority of the maintenance because they didn't have an affordable solution.
That's where it starts because you're like, for example, the one I'm not doing this yet out of state. I'm focusing on in state first because it's like obviously closer to me to self manage. But where it comes down to like, I'd be getting quotes for flooring, and I'm like, guys, like I can get somebody in Seattle cheaper than you're getting somebody in Milwaukee. Like this is not the something's broken here. Either you're charging me a margin on top of what you're doing, which sometimes is the case, or you're not finding a cost efficient person, or worse, could both. They could be adding margin on there. Ultimately, when we dug into it, they are using a preferred lend or a vendor for the flooring, which they then are adding a markup on it. So they're adding a markup on the floor. They add a markup on the contractors they use. So they're like double dipping. So then I started ended up doing it on my own, uh, just like what you're saying.
Flavio, I think it was Flavio just mentioned that how come we are not sharing both screens? Oops. I guess I was on speaker mode. That shows it's been too long since we've done this. That is
There
my
we go.
bad. I think we're there we go. I think that's better.
When we're here, I watch it so that way I can type when people are in here. I just noticed that both our faces are on there now.
Excellent. That is better. So yeah, and on the my side, so I just gave notice to my management company yesterday, and no, it was not an April Fool's joke. I had to
Hmm.
let them know because I pay them 9% the
Hmm.
portfolio, and they were managing 97 of my rentals. I had already
Hmm.
taken some back, and People kept telling me to rip off the Band-Aid. It's a bummer though, because ideal world, if they could have done it correctly, everybody makes enough money, it's fine. But I found myself doing all the lease placements. They were doing the tenant shuffle. Have you ever seen that on any of your apartment buildings where a tenant wants to move into a nicer unit, so they move them in, and then you have to remodel that other unit, and then someone wants to move into that one, and they never actually fill it. They just move people around and incrementally get another $100 of rent from that
Right.
person, but they could have gotten that from someone else without doing the remodel on that original unit.
That's
So
the beauty of being a property manager, right? They never lose the money on the move over, and they get the lease up fee as well on the new one, right?
it's ridiculous. And I negotiated lease up fees out of my model. I thought I had a perfect pay structure, but then I realized there was one missing piece in it. I originally they would get 6.5% and charge lease up fee of $500 and a renewal fee of 250. So I said, I'll pay you guys 9% flat, no other lease up fees. And I thought that was ideal. Now they only get paid when the stuff's full.
Hmm.
But the problem is if you lease up a unit in my rental range of $1,000, they only get $90 for the work. So that wasn't the right model. It should have been. If I
Right.
ever started a PM company myself, the way it would have to be is a graduated pay schedule. So no lease up fees. But if you're under 80%, it's 6% PM fee. And then when you get to 85, it goes to 6.5, and then it goes to 7, and then it goes to 8. And so it incrementally works up as they perform better so that they get more on what's already producing,
Exactly.
which
And then you're hitting on the right topic. It's the incentivized, right? So what ends up happening is if you don't have the incentivized pay structure, then they're not going to put the extra effort into it. So you're you're thinking about it in the right way on how to structure it, especially as like, 1% for their business. I'm assuming they're doing thousands a unit. That starts adding up a lot for their side. So it's just a matter of getting them aligned on that structure.
yeah, but now we're past that. Have you officially canned your PM? Did you do that yet?
No, I think mine is a 30-day notice, so like I'd have to do it today. So my target is Q2 of this year. So, you know, within this month, I'm going to give the notice, and then for sure by Q2 I'll be self-managing. Now, part of the for me, like, because I wasn't self-managing before, so I'm actually in Lumberjack Landlord's boot camp on
Wow, you like
self-management.
it?
Yeah. So we're week one, two, three. I think we're gonna be week 4 is next week. So almost halfway through the boot camp. And it's just a lot of the basic stuffs that I hadn't done in the past, refreshing my memory on it. And so it's a good for one to get me updated to make sure I'm doing the right stuff, but then two, like as I transition it in, well, now I can go talk to an expert anytime, right? And so that's been good. And one of the properties that I bought in January, it's actually a lease option. So I actually self-manage that one already. And it's amazing like how one one property can, cause a lot of problems, right? So I'm learning a lot with that one property. So I'm able to use those instances there, take it into the boot camp, ask my questions there, and then implement.
You associated that building as bad because you mentioned, I know you word played it, but it was problem, not property. That's great.
Yeah.
You got to manage
Yeah,
that problem.
yeah. What's interesting though, it's like that property was fine, you know, with the person that I acquired it from. And it's just that, what ends up happening is like different person, different processes, right? So for the prior person, what they were allowing was because we use Avail. So Avail is like a PM software, you can do
Oh,
leases
interesting.
and all that, right? So I'm on the freemium model, so it's free. But with the free model, it doesn't give you all the functionality. Well, in this model, the prior owner was getting paid every month. Now, when I say get paid, it was getting paid in the month. It wasn't getting paid on time, right? So what they were doing in the past is that they would set up their payment to be paid on the due date. So you do on the first, late on the fifth, right? I should say they're on the late. So they're
Hmm.
then setting it up to be paid on the fifth. Now, when I actually get paid is like 5 to 7 business days after, because Avail takes the payment, holds it, then they then transfer it to my account. So then I was like, hey guys, like this is not how it works. Like I have to make my payments. So you have to pay me to make mine. So you have to set it up potentially even before the end of the month, right? So I was like, if you pay on the 30th, like 99% of the time, I'll get paid by the 5th, right? Because that'd be
Hmm.
roughly the five. And so they're like, well, it wasn't that way in the past. I'm like, well, we're not in the past. We're in today. So you have to pay, set it up early. And then that kind of like was a series of events, right? Now they're getting into, well, we got a new bank account for the business and it's been late. So I still have not been paid for March. Now today, the April payments coming out, which they did set up in advance after we had a Zoom meeting to go over this stuff. So now I'm waiting to see where's the March payment at. So if I was home, I'd literally go be knocking on their door. Now I'm not physically home, so I'm probably going to have to send notices to them about late payment.
Isn't that so fun?
Oh yeah, exactly.
Did you ever check out Hemlane? Because
I
the you mentioned you're using a different platform. I haven't heard of that one, but I did Hemlane at Dion's mention, his advice.
mhm.
It seems to be pretty cool, at least for the portfolio size that I have. Because I think I have 100 now. I have 115 units with them, and they they're awesome. They got a full support team, 24/7 call line. You can sync it up with the bank account. It's pretty cool. And it's like 18 bucks a month per unit. So for your rents, that shouldn't be a large percentage.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. I mean, I like the Avail just because I'm already using it, and
Yeah.
and it's free. There is some limitations obviously because like for example, the lease is the lease is the lease. So if you want to change anything, then you got to upgrade to like a $90 a month. Now it's flat, not per unit, so it's not like
Hmm.
super. It wouldn't be super expensive. But that I'm just used to it, right? So like I could use Hemlane. I know that Door Loop is what I believe Lumberjack Landlord uses. So um, as I start get rolling, like I'm not opposed to switching, especially as I bring more units on. I think Avail, the free version of Avail, is going to be. I'll have to either upgrade or find a different solution.
Sweet. And will you ever start a PM company if you grew to that size where you would just take it all in house and actually run it like a business? Because that's something I'm going back and forth on. I don't quite have enough to justify it yet, but in a couple of years, it could make sense.
I've been thinking about it a lot, more so just from the fact that, I mean, you're an agent as well. You mainly focus on your own stuff, but I have a lot of clients where they're either house hacking and they don't want to talk to the other person, or they moved out of the house hack and now there's, up 2 to 4 units that need to be managed, or they already have a rental and they're just like, hey, I need a PM. Do you have any references? Right. So who I normally refer them to is who I'm going to pull it back from. And so I'm like, well, it might make sense to add some of these into the portfolio to lower the cost structure. And it's probably I'd be a little bit selective, right? So like obviously higher end properties, higher end tenant base, those tend to be less maintenance, right? You're still going to have issues with the property because it's just over time they're going to dilapidate, right? But in terms of the tenant base, they typically are easier to work with versus your kind of entry level rents.
It seems like that. I have 10 units that are newer than 1990, and
Hmm.
everything else is like 52 and affordable housing, so 800 to 1,000. Well, these
Right.
units are like 1,800 to 3,000. And so far, I really hope this doesn't change. The 1,800 to $3,000 renters are the easiest people to work with.
Right.
I hope that stays the same. But what's
I
crazy
know.
is in 15 years, the $800 rents are going to be the $1,800 rents. So then that'll be
I
the
know.
tough one to work with.
Exactly. Yeah. When you think about the transition, right? Because like even for me, like I'm about 10 years in, right? And I know when I had my first fourplex, and this is Milwaukee, so obviously, correlated to your
Hmm.
location.
Hmm.
I think my first one bedrooms were like $400. Now, one bedrooms now are like 700 to 800. It's like they almost doubled, right? So for you, you said 1,000, right? So 10 years from now, 2036, that's 2,000, right? So, if you have the small multifamily, you could lock in your rate for 30 years. Now, I think yours are a lot on commercial, if not seller finance. So you might get best case 10 years, but most likely 5 years fixed. But if you can lock in that debt structure and roughly it'll double in 10 years, I mean, real estate is just a no-brainer to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And my stuff typically locks for 5 and then it adjusts for another 5.
Hmm. Yep.
So it's a concern, but also you think about with commercial, if you're buying deals that are below market rent by a significant margin. Sorry, a tenant just texted me. That happens. If you're
Yeah.
below market rent and you believe that you can consistently bump it up, then you should have enough cash flow to pay the adjustment. And that's the other
Mhm.
blessing of not having bought when the rates were 3. I never had any of those rates. It's a lot. It's a lot less of an adjustment if it goes from 6 to 8 rather than going from 3 to 8.
Right.
Did you have
That's
any commercial loans that adjusted from the low threes up?
Yeah, so actually a lot of them. And that's part of the reason why I was selling the bottom third in 24, 25. I think is when I was doing that. So, you know, a swath, like everything I had refied in basically 2020,
Yeah.
some in 21, right? And all those are on 5-year fixed. Now, I did commercial loans because it was just easy for me at the time.
Hmm.
And they weren't they were two, three, 4 units, right? They're not technically commercial, but you can still get a commercial loan on those properties depending on the bank that you're working with, right? So I was working with the US Bank, so I did a ton of these refis and then a local credit union in Wisconsin. And so they were all at 375. So, you know, it's crazy to even think that was possible, but they're at 375. And then, if I was to refi, they're like, around 8%. This was if I would have refied in 24, 25. So I ended up selling those versus refinancing them, right? So, um, as I move forward and, we'll have lower rates in the future. So I want to switch to longer term, so the 30-year fixed stuff as much as possible. And then, obviously if it's commercial, 5 or more, I'll try to push for 10, which, thankfully I did that on some of our properties. No, of the partnership I have left, we have 4 properties. In those four, one of them I was able to get 10-year. So, which is pretty awesome because it was that one's at I think 3.5. So we have
Wow.
another 5 years left on that one, right? So, like, if I would have had the foresight, and this is like for us, we're both relatively young in the game, right? We don't have
Oh,
decades.
absolutely.
Like, we didn't, we're like, oh, it's gonna come back down. right? And in hindsight, I would should have at minimum pushed all the commercial for 10-year in the refi.
Mhm.
Or, I remember I had a 30-year fixed DSCR at 4% for my entire portfolio, an umbrella. But I didn't want to do it because then it's all in the umbrella. And so then it's hard to like carve off and sell the stuff. But man, if I would have done that, holy smokes, life, I would have kept a lot more of the properties versus selling them off. Because like, I don't know about you, but from, if we use round numbers, 4 to 8%, whatever money you were making, it's gone. The 4% interest rate change, right?
Oh yeah, my buddy had a nineplex on the water, and his PITI was like $2,000.
Yeah.
He was in the threes, and when that adjusts, which I think is in a couple of years, I mean, his payments got to go up. He's at a $740,000 loan amount, so I
Jeez.
imagine, yeah. Well, he might have actually refinanced that. Now that I think about it, because that doesn't make sense. He originally bought it. He had a 440 loan, so yeah, he did refinance it, but that must have sucked going from 2 grand a month to probably six.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just for the math, I have a calculator here. So if it was 700,000, loan only 3.5%, assuming a 30-year AM, just the PI is 3,100. Now, if you go to, let's say it goes to seven. So 3,100 goes to 47. So $1,600 a month. So, on 9 units, that's basically $150 a month, right? $177. So if he was making $177 today per month net, that's all gone at the refi if he goes 3.5 to 7.
Awful. Well,
I
I'm
know
hopeful
exactly.
that because my average rate right now is around seven.
Hmm.
So I'm resetting my debts right now to six, and they are locked for five. The other
Hmm.
interesting thing is they're on a 25-year AM, not a 30-year AM. So I'm going to start
Right.
chunking down my principal balances sooner. But hopefully, by the time it does reset, my rents will be up enough and my debts will be down enough where it shouldn't matter.
Right. Yeah, that 5-year difference is huge because just kind of I'm going off memory. On a 30-year, or usually like the first 10 years, you only pay off like 10 to 15%, some crazy low number, right? Because all the principals pay it on the back end, the way the amortization schedule works. So you shorten that up, you're probably paying double, I would imagine, in the first 10 years of that payment.
Well, the interesting thing, I don't know how much you've ever looked into rate factors, but I find them fascinating. That might be the nerd in me, but basically, it's your cost of capital as a percentage. So it's your principal and interest divided into your loan amount, so, on an annual basis. So 6% interest only loan, the cost of capital is just 6%. It's your interest divided by your loan amount. Super easy. On a
Hmm.
30-year AM, that rate factor is 7.19. So 1.9% of the loan amount gets paid down basically in the first year. On a
Hmm.
25-year AM, it's 7.68. So it's basically 1.68% of the loan amount gets paid down in the first year. And you think about that extra almost 0.5%
Yep.
of a loan, like half a percent of the loan amount gets paid down extra in the first year. That really adds up over half
Hmm.
a decade.
That's like one of the things like as I was building the portfolio and my business philosophy, I go by this saying, all great things come from the power of the increment. That point 0.5 increment adds up over time and it just starts compounding. And that's what I think a lot of people forget. Like we're talking about property management today. That first incremental change helps increase your profitability. Then over time, as you scale up, you get lower costs from the contractors. You can then, bring in support. Or for like me, let's say I do creative property management. These little incremental things that you add to the business are really what start separating everybody, right? So like if you look at Dion and his, I think it's 9 properties and around, I want to say it's like 18 units, something like that. Like when he started, like it was low dollar amount. Now he can't even spend the money every month that comes out, especially when he's in Thailand, right? So, but that's not because of what he did like today. It's from whatever 15 years, whatever, that just incrementally added up.
Now here's a an interesting thought process on the management piece and the ownership piece. And let me know if you have to go because I know you're on vacation. But I have a friend who told me early on, and he's been a contractor for a long time. He said, my goal of all of my units is if you're in one, you can't tell which one you're in,
I
meaning
like that.
everything looks the same. So all the floors are the same, the cabinets are the same, the handles are the same. It makes it very simple. You don't have to know, oh, I have to buy this part for this place. It's if I buy this, I can fix this in this any of my units. What are your
Right.
thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm 100% aligned on that. As for example, like um, there's a unit where um, I had somebody else. I bought it from a friend of mine who converted the garage into a data, right? And
Hmm.
so he uses a different Sherwin-Williams white. You know, everyone thinks white is white. There's like a freaking thousand whites. You got your Sherwin-Williams whites. You got your um, I'm forgetting the other name, but all the other paint companies have their own
The
whites,
other
right?
999, yeah, it's another
Yeah,
999 of them.
yeah. So then it's like what is the actual white color? Because like the tenant's moving out, and we got to paint some trim and stuff. And so then we're like, there's a couple emails that go by, and just that amount of time just to figure out what the white number is, right? So the more that you standardize and say all the whites are, Sherwin-Williams 1590, whatever the number is. And then if you use a separate, say you use a gray, whatever that, gray color is, it's exactly the same. Whatever LVP you use is a manufacturer that's in the business for a long time that is continuing to manufacture it, and you can buy it everywhere, right? So like that's why like a lot of people will go to the big Home Depots and Lowe's, like versus like say maybe like a lumber liquidators, right? You might get a great deal today on something, but if you want it to be the same as everybody else, that may not be a possibility because it's probably like they got a couple containers that when it's gone, right? And so like as I'm, looking, I want to do the same thing as I set my stuff up, right? I was just as you were saying that, I was like, so I'm drinking Coca-Cola here. Coca-Cola, their whole mission is that when you drink Coca-Cola, it tastes the same in Thailand, it tastes the same in Africa, it tastes the same in the US. It's the same exact thing. And the whole reason for that is like consistency for their cost structure, but the value to the client, right? So if we have the same unit everywhere, the client experience should also be the same. So it's both, inward facing on how we manage for costs and then externally facing for the potential tenant. They know that they're going to get a quality product because we have the same thing that we put out there.
Yeah. And I regret looking back. I mean, you have to do it to learn it, but I regret trying out some of the flooring that I tried. I wish I just stuck with the some of the originals because today all my units would be uniform, and now I got like dark brown, light brown, gray. I was like, I should have just stuck with light brown. That would have been the easiest, but it's
Yeah.
all right. And I was thinking because I'm converting a lot of my old units right now. They have like the bar kitchen. Have you seen that where it's just like straight bar? You got the sink, and then you got the stove, and then the fridge is off in no man's land. Well, I'm converting all those now to be uniform to where it's an L kitchen because basically these units are small. So the
Uh,
fridge, like if I have a little bar kitchen behind me, the fridge is going to be over there, just where the plug is. But now I'm wrapping the cabinets around to make it all uniform. And
mhm.
just doing that is getting $125 a month premium above the other units, which is crazy.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
that's going to be the new standard.
Well, the other thing is like just for simplicity, because you're just mentioning, because I have units like this too. You have this refrigerator off, right? And, tenants can move the refrigerator. There's just issues that can be caused, right? If you move that refrigerator touching the cabinet, that's like less problems that can happen, right?
Hmm.
A fridge by itself, could it potentially fall over? Like if somebody, doing whatever, or there's an earthquake. Yeah. So like just having it in between cabinets or at least touching one cabinet reduces the amount of risk of having a rental unit.
Yeah. I think that's gonna be my project. I had a tenant similar to yours who hasn't paid. They owe like $4,500. We were
Oh,
in the
geez.
yeah, we were in the eviction process, and then right before, so they don't have it on the record, they dipped out. So I'm like, really? So that's obnoxious. But hey, I get to now I have the unit that's surrendered, so I'm gonna probably do that L cabinet idea in the coming
Uh-huh.
weeks and get it re-rented. Make it look like the rest.
There you go. What do you think, as you've given notice, so you're already taking it back. So now it's like, what actually keeps you up at night? What makes you nervous bringing it back in house? Just so that, because I think the viewers out here are like, oh, it's easy for them because they have all these rentals. But if you're like me, I'm still a little nervous of taking it back over. What are you nervous about taking the PM back in house?
Well, self-managing. So I used to self-manage 81 rentals,
Okay.
and then I went to self-managing nothing. So I was like, ha, I'm done. I don't have to do anything. That was a false assumption.
Hmm.
But now I'm back in the point where I'm self-managing over 100 rentals come next month because it's a 1 month, it's a calendar month period. So I notified them yesterday so that they wouldn't be managing through May because I didn't want
Right.
that. So they're managing this month and then I'm taking over. It's still scary. It's like I can't earn enough money at any job on planet Earth to pay my mortgages. Like that's not feasible, not with my connections. So the portfolio has to work. So that's a little nerve-wracking. It's like it's been floating and
Hmm.
doing okay, but I've done some lease ups recently, and so now things are cash flowing better, which is wonderful.
Hmm.
And yeah, I'm still nervous though. To that point, it's like I haven't done it in a couple of years, but I
Yeah.
have been proving concept. I've been getting lease ups. I leased up 2 units over the weekend, 900 a piece. So you figure that's an extra $22,000 a year I don't have to think about. And so I'm just going to slowly keep doing that. I leased up another unit last week for 2850. So that's 34 grand I don't have to think about. That wasn't leased before. At least some RV spots. So getting little wins is going to help a lot because I leased the RV spot. I was like, oh, I can do this. And then I leased a 1 bedroom. I was like, I can do this. And confidence gets better and better and better. So you just got to get little wins.
Well, obviously, yes, you increased the rent, right? But what you didn't talk about there is that you said, I think you said originally you were paying 500 per month for lease up or 500 fee, right?
Mhm. Well, way back when, yeah.
Yeah.
Now I don't have that, and I negotiated that out of
Hmm.
my structure with PM because they were charging 6.5%, but the way my turnovers were happening from the way that they were managing it, my realized cost of management was over 12%. So the lease up fees ate that because the way they were running the properties were massive turnovers. And so,
Right.
it's an expensive way to do it. So rather
Exactly.
than losing a tenant now, I'd rather give them like a $200 renewal credit than have them leave.
100%. Yeah. You're thinking as an owner, right? So like, you know, yeah, because I'm going through this too. It's like, do I increase it 25 bucks, 50 bucks? Or am I better off if they've been there for a long time? You know, let's just keep it as is if they stay, right? And you can even phrase it up. You can say it however you want and be like, hey, if you go month to month, it's $50 more. If you stay in the 1 year lease, we keep it flat. And that way you're giving them options. You're not having to pay the lease up fee because now you're the self-management. And in a perfect world, now you keep them in the tenant for as a tenant for another year.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to push the turnover down the road as far as I can. I don't want to do that. I don't think anybody wants to do that. I mean, you can get more
Mhm.
rent, like the loss to lease. Maybe you could rent it out for another 150 bucks. But if you have to spend 7 grand to do that and you lose 2 months of income, is it really worth it? Usually it's not.
Exactly. Yeah. Tell me if you're accept this question. Like, Should I raise it up? And like, especially, there's some people that are like, I'll build in a year and a half from now. I'm like, why try to get $50 or $100 like per month? Just keep them in there because if they move out, the unit turn is going to be money and you're going to have lost rent. So just keep it low, especially if you're going to be building in the future.
Total agreement. And in the very beginning, I bought deals where I had to raise the rent. So the rents were $300, $400. I had some at 380. Talked about that before. And
Hmm.
I had to take those rents up. Now they're paying 700, but they're still there and market rent's probably 850 for that. So get to a point where you're below market, but you're paying your bills and paying yourself and let it ride for 5 years. Wake up and you'll be like, dang, this building's worth a lot more than it used to be. And my debt's a lot less than it used to be. And
Right.
you'll probably be happy you did rather than doing the grind of let me get that extra $25 a year. Like, yeah, or $25 a month, but it's just not worth it. I haven't done that on hundreds of rentals. It's not worth it at all.
Exactly. I was just
Cool.
as we're looking up here, I just tallied up just in the Western Washington. So when I bring it back in, it'll just be a little over $1,000 a month. And that would be for um, let's see, 6 properties, and that is I think 10 units. So,
Hmm.
call it $100 a month kind of thing. $100 per month per unit. So, effectively that little bit of incremental effort will be $1,000 increased, or I should say $1,000 decrease in cost. And
Hmm.
then in the long term, it'll translate to higher margin by lowering the cost structure on unit turns, keeping tenants in, all that kind of stuff.
Well, imagine if you just took that money. That's something I've thought about. It's like, okay, if I'm paying management X per month, my fees with
Mhm.
the occupancy level they've had is it's about 7 grand a month. Imagine if I just took that and threw it on a mortgage. Like I have a
Right.
mortgage that's like 200, yeah, 236,000. Like that'd be paid off in a couple of years
Hmm.
just from what I was paying them, just for a little bit of, like you mentioned, incremental extra work.
Exactly. Cool. Well, we should have like, because you're taking it over May 1, right? So if
Hmm.
I submit today, I'd be the same. So, um, that could be an ongoing series. Like as we bring it back in, what are the issues we're facing? What were the easy parts or hard parts? Just so we can share our story as we're bringing it back in house.
Is your contract calendar month or is it 30 days? Do you know?
I'll have to go look it up.
Yeah,
Um,
because I was asking ChatGPT about that, and it's like if it's calendar month, you need to do it the last day of the month prior. So that's why I did it yesterday because I wasn't sure. I was like, I don't want to chance it.
yeah, I'll have to see. I'm in my portal, which is AppFolio for the PM I'm using,
Hmm.
and does not appear like my contract is in there. So I'll have to, it'll be awkward.
Oh,
Hey,
great.
can I get the contract for you so I can figure out when I can cancel my contract? So, but that's part of the process.
Yeah, it is. All righty.
Good
Well, it was
catching
good
up,
chatting
man.
with you. Yeah, I'll see you next